This is the Uncucked Guide, Getting into Advanced Dungeons & Dragons and Game Design by Pilleater. Yes, you heard right. Now what is this? This is a screencast for intellectual and anti-liberal people who hate SJWs, soy boys, bugmen, and normies, but still want to get into a deeply unappreciated art called game design, or learn how to play the most misunderstood game ever, Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. Now, if I've set up this little screencast to tell you from start to finish to get into a game which is now run by the most despicable and disgusting people ever, from ironic nerds who are like beard soy boys with glasses and beards and they're video gamers and they only do it to attract their Asian girlfriends or whatever the fuck, to just like, hey, I just want to learn a second person narrative game and be interested into it without being like this fucking stupid cuck. So I've set this for a complete person who's like smart and reads like a lot of weird stuff on the internet, but wants to take a 2-year journey in order to fully understand the game and not be considered a nerd, you know? And so read the following books. It may take you a year or more, but here I go. So the first thing what you're going to do, and I assume you play video games or whatnot or jerk off, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to pick up a book, and that book is The Warlock of Firetop Mountain. This is a game book. This is like a choose-your-own-adventure book where you like flip to the next page. And this book's by Steve Jackson and Ian Livingston. They made up Games Workshop. And in this book, you are basically a knight and you go through this thing and you fight stuff. And you have 3 statistics: skill, stamina, luck. And there's only 2 6-sided dice. That's it. And you roll the dice, and you beat things if the score is equal to or less than your skill or stamina, and then you use luck to do whatever. Very simple system. It's only like 3 pages long, but the combat's real fun. You just roll and you kill each other. And there's over 60 different books of these and more. I strongly suggest picking up this book. This book's probably like $15 or so. Okay, once you read that book in a week or two, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to pick up the Fighting Fantasy, the introductory role-playing game. This book took the system you learned in The Warlock of Firetop Mountain and introduces it into a whole new role-playing system or a game. So this might be your first role-playing game. It's a very small book. It's meant for children, and it just tells you in this book what skill, stamina, luck, what you previously learned, but there's going to be another player who's going to act as the game master, and they're going to read some part and read it to you while you roll dice and do things. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be its own unique game of its own, but this is going to be the cataclysm of something bigger. So once you enjoyed that, this book's $30. You take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you play with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever. You've read that book, so next thing you want to do is you want to go on Lulu Online, and you're going to pick up this third book, the Swords and Wizardry White Box book. Now, Swords and Wizardry is a role-playing game based upon the White Box series of 1974 books, of the first Dungeons & Dragons. But this book is just the first Dungeons & Dragons book. They clone them, those 3 little booklets from 1974, and they put it in a nice way where it's just the rules. Now, you're going to look at this book, the Sword and Wizardry White Box, and you're going to apply these books back to the Fighting Fantasy introductory role-playing game. So you're going to get this into that, and you're going to use that, the White Box, and try to put in like these 3 classes and experiences and see where it goes and just add on to it and maybe understand what Dungeons & Dragons is really all about. Maybe you can understand it at the most basic level. So that book is like $15 again. All right. Now, this was only the first cycle. I assumed you read this book. May it take you a month or 2, but you got past the first cycle of books. This is the very start of your intellectual journey to really understanding Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. But now, you're going to go for the second part, which is going to take you 6 months in advance. So we're not going to play games anymore. You're going to go back to school. You're going to go back to college. You're going to take a semester off. You're going to take 2 semesters off. And what are you going to do? When you get home, you're going to read Game Design by Louis Pulsifer. Game Design by Louis Pulsifer. This book is $30. He also has a YouTube channel. Louis Pulsifer, his board game is Britannia. He's done other things, but Louis Pulsifer is probably the best living game designer in existence right now. You can watch his YouTube videos. He says pretty much the same thing as game design book. He's always dropping knowledge that's huge and destroys your dream if you ever want to be a game designer, like make a video game or something. He has it all. He has all the answers. And you look through this book, and with this book, you can deconstruct the whole entire thing you read from Fighting Fantasy and the White Box. You can understand what you're really doing, what game design is really about. Now, as you're reading this book, there's another hefty book you probably want to look at, and that's The Characteristics of Games by Richard Garfield. And this book is by Richard Garfield, who did Magic the Gathering, and some of his other friends too who worked with him. And in this book, it's a very academic MIT Press book that tells you all the skeletons of games. So what do they do? What does it mean? And Richard Garfield philosophy, right? The book is kind of written like a Wittgenstein. It's very heavily academic, but again, this one was always my favorite, but I would suggest Game Design by Louis Pulsifer over this one. But again, if you really enjoyed Pulsifer's book, you're gonna delve deep into this one. This one's a whole can of worms. This one's gonna make you you're gonna understand everything. You're gonna see the like Neo in the Matrix. You're gonna look at ones and zeros. So okay, during your 6-month meditation, you will play and observe these games while reading these books or those books. Those books. Okay, while you're reading those 2 books, you're going to play Nightmare Chess in Cosmic Encounter Games Workshop Edition, okay? You're going to, I specifically want the Games Workshop edition of Cosmic Encounter because it's small. Sometimes it's expensive, but any edition of Cosmic Encounter will do. It's just the Fantasy Flight edition is just a lot. And if you get a small portable one like West End Games, you can understand what Cosmic's really about. And Nightmare Chest, actually with a quote on the back by Gary Gygax, how much he did this. The game's by Bruno Faiduti, a French game designer. Again, you're playing chess, but you're playing down cards and messing with the chess pieces and making the game all kooky and wacky and doing weird stuff. And Cosmic Encounter, well, it's a role-playing game, hypothetically. You're given alien roles, and it's a competitive, right? It's not cooperative, or it's not a solo adventure, which you learned in Fighting Fantasy. Everyone's fighting in each other. So during your 6 months, you're going to be reading characteristics of games and game design, and you're going to understand Nightmare Chess. You're going to play chess, but you're also going to read a book called Encyclopedia of Chess Variants by David Pritchard. This is probably the hugest book of chess variants ever. I suggest the 2007 edition. There's a PDF of it. And it's just over 1,000 different ways you can play chess. You know, chess is 100% skill. And Nightmare Chess, which is also referenced in the encyclopedia, is just like you're playing cards down and you're making the board all wacky and shit like that. You're making game design. Like Cosmic Encounter and Nightmare Chess is this thing that will open you up to game design. So play these while you read this book. Now, after half a year, doing this shit, or maybe more than a year since you've watched this video, you will finally get into Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. But your first book on AD&D will be this book. That is the Dungeons & Dragons Essentials Rules Compendium. Why? Because 4th edition made the rules into a cyborg Skynet robot computer, Nicklandian molebug thing, and now you can understand why 4th edition is evil yet rational. So if you ever like technical computer ruling, read this book, because it's going to tell you everything you know about Dungeons & Dragons as said by a computer, yet everyone hates 4th edition and 5th edition, so why should you even read this book? Well, this book was an attempt at trying to make Dungeons & Dragons a rational science. So you're gonna be like satirically reading this book, or you're gonna be ridiculing this book as you read it, because you're gonna be understanding the bones of what makes game design click. You're gonna incorporate the game design and your previous playing games, understand, oh, it's just a series of rules that I can apply myself as a game designer. And then that's gonna open you up to a whole new world where you start to realize that game design is actually role-playing. And so role-playing games is the games of designing games, right? And players playtesting them. So after you read that, you're just going to delve right into Advanced Dungeons & Dragons without saying, fuck 5th edition, fuck 4th edition, and fuck 3rd edition, fuck Jonathan Tweet, that atheist retard. So you will finally read Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2. And you're going to read both the books at the same time. You're going to read the AD&D 2nd Edition Player's Handbook and AD&D 2nd Edition Dungeon Master's Guide. Not the 1st edition, the 2nd edition. you're gonna understand what advanced Dungeons and Dragons is, not the D&D cuck shit. That was Jonathan Tweet, who messed up the entire armor class by making it ascending and not descending and destroying Thaco and all that bullshit. You're going to finally understand what it is. And these books were written by Dave Zeb Cook and editing by Warren Spector, very well-known, loved game designers, okay? He even describes it like playing Chutes and Ladders or Snakes and Ladders, but you're designing a game instead. Remember, role-playing games, the game of designing games and players playtesting them. And the word campaign? You've probably heard the word campaign before. That doesn't mean a connection of adventures. It actually means your play group, the board game you're playing, the game you're playing. And the game you're playing is a role-playing game, and it just happens to be the system is Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. You will further understand this for a book called For Gold and Glory by Justin Brown. This is a clone of those previous books, both the Dungeon Master Guide and the Player's Handbook. And another person wrote it. He rewrote the rules entirely. So if you didn't understand Cook's language, you can now understand it through Justin Brown's language. Again, he makes it computer like he did with the 4E. So this will turn into that for the Gold and Glory stuff. So for Gold and Glory is going to really help you out. Now, as you're reading these books, you're also going to watch videos. You're going to watch John's D&D vlog. I don't have the link, just Google search it. Here's a screen cap of it. John's D&D vlog. It's based AD&D wisdom. This guy's amazing. His videos are awesome. And if his videos were to ever go down, the world would be destroyed. Everybody would be fucked. But you're going to learn a lot about Dungeons & Dragons just spending hours, or at least 7 hours, 6 hours of your time just watching all the videos. And it's just you're going to be enlightened. In fact, buy his book, A Few Thoughts, Mormon Logic. It's really interesting, but this will tell you really what Dungeons & Dragons is really about. So I assume you now at this point, read that and you probably know how to play the game at this point. You have 6 ability skills. All you have to do is just like fighting fantasy. You have to roll equal to and less than in an ability check. And when you do combat, you roll equal to or greater than during combat through Thaco or ability or just some tables. And you start to realize it's all just table shit, right? And then you're going to finally get to the big guy, and that's Osric, right? Before you go into A&D 1, you're going to understand what A&D is about, right? So you're making it reverse. You now understand that Dungeons & Dragons is a game where you have 6 abilities. All it is 3 6-sided dice, right? You roll that, lowest number 3, highest number 18. There's no such fucking thing as a D20, right? And Osric helps you with that old school rolling. And this is the same guy who did all the way back. We learned about the white box, right? And now we're going to learn finally Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 1s. And we're going to read these rules, deciding with AD&D 1. And these are both books are to be read, and this is how you play the game. Ignore the Gygax wording. This is why Osric was written. Osric was written because Gary Gygax pretty much wrote these by himself, under the influence of David Arnson, and he wrote them in his own wording. So we had to translate the author's stuff. It's like kind of reading like the Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe. So you're reading Gary Gygax's, knowledge, right? Now that you know Cook's version and the clone writing of Brown and Finch, you can now understand and, look through these, and this old wording, whether it's psionics or something like that, you just go back to Osric. And then you're thinking, as you're reading this, oh, these are just really outdated rules for game design. And really, I'm just a game designer. So that should be implemented in your head. This is almost, and then you're gonna be confident at this point. You're ready to play the game. Now, on the side note, if you can, there's PDFs of these books called Role Playing Mastery and Master the Game by Gary Gygax. One was meant for players and one was meant for the game. The zeitgeist is very old on these, but they still provide important knowledge, and I suggest read through these as like a fun read, But Gygax is gonna give you a little something about the Lake Geneva culture of Wisconsin and about himself and about these weird people and how normal people played game design back then and what a game designer imposed onto play testers. And again, you're at this point where it's no longer about Dungeons & Dragons. It's about you as a game designer imposing onto the play testers and making up games. And things become more weird, miniatures are just things on a board. Because remember, the Pulsifer information on game design and the characteristics of games. Now, you're ready to be fucking woke. because there's going to be another YouTube channel you're going to watch as you're doing this, and that's RPG Pundit. Before you start playing, you're going to watch all the videos by RPG Pundit. It's like 2 to 3 hours long, and he's an SJW hater, and he's an old school Renaissance player. And this guy, he, like, the quartering, he's up to date in the role-playing world, hashtag D&D gate, about all this fucking liberal cuck bullshit going on, the transhumanist shit, the anti-racism code word for anti-white stuff. He knows all about that, and he wants Advanced Dungeons & Dragons to survive in the future. And this is really great shit. This is all great. I commented most on his videos. And so you're going to watch these, and you're going to incorporate, and you're going to, like, detox yourself. It's like taking a pill. You're taking the D&D pill right now, and you're going to detox yourself and understand, faggots play Dungeons & Dragons. What the fuck? And now you're smart enough, and you're like, I'm an intellect now. I'm a Renaissance man. I'm the way of men, Jack Donovan. And you're going to be this, like, ubermensch, like, countercurrents reading, like, homo nat that's into, like, board games and role-playing games, and you're just going to be like, fuck it. I'm a game designer now, and only intellectual Nietzschean aristocracy can play it. So that should be implemented in your head after watching John and RPG Pundit. So now you are ready to play the game, and I hope you're still with me right now. So here's what you need. Here's what you need if you want to show your stupid friends, your stupid geeky friends, and your girlfriend Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to get the D&D 4th edition 2011 star set. Now throw everything out and keep the dice in box. You just want the box to make it say Dungeons & Dragons, because most people who play role-playing games, they just have books. They don't have boxes to keep their shit in. And so nobody's ever prepared to play role-playing games. You want to be prepared. You want to have a fucking box with dice in it, and you'll have the dice from all the way from D4 to D20. Great. And you're going to get more dice, and you're probably going to get another set at your store online, whatever. At the same time, you're going to go on Vistaprint. And on Vistaprint, you're going to find a character sheet for, like, Dungeons & Dragons 1. You're going to copy that, and you're going to get some notepads. You're going to get 50 notepads for $10 on Vistaprint. And that's going to come in a week, and you'll get those. You're going to get a bunch of miniature pencils and put them in a plastic bag. And all your dice are going to go in a baggie. So you have your bag of dice, your little miniature pencils and plastic bags, the Vistaprint thing, the Dungeons & Dragon box, the rules on the side. Maybe Osric can go in the box because you're so knowledgeable at this point. You could bring this box anywhere like a fucking Chad. So there's going to be 2 modules you're going to put in this box. You're going to put either the Keep on the Borderlands Dungeon Module B2, or you're going to put the Temple of Elemental Evil in your box, okay? These should take another 6 months to play, but actually, this is it. This is the game itself. This is the motherfucking game itself. I could have said Ravenloft, but this is it. You're going to play Keep of the Borderlands. Now if you're like smart Chad, you're a Chad game master going against virgin playtesters, and they're going to play your unique game. They're going to play your unique Beowulf fantasy. It doesn't have to be fantasy. It could be sci-fi. It could be whatever. It's just a fucking game system. And so you're going to have this weird power dialect, this weird Wittgenstein game is life dialect, but it's not that. It's a game, right? It's your own board game, and you're going to impose it onto other people, and they're going to respect that, and you have other smart individuals, and everyone's a big brain Chad playing this. And after you keep the Borderlands, you're going to go straight to level 3 characters in the Temple of Elemental Evil, and that will take you a year or more, and that will be all of your fun of Dungeons & Dragons is the Temple of Elemental Evil. So again, you're going to have that red Dungeons & Dragons starter box, and you're going to put the modules and everything in there, and you'll have a basic game. And that is your board game, and that is the board game you have created. That is what Dungeons & Dragons have done you. Dungeons & Dragons have gave you the power to be a game designer. Your favorite game is a game of designing games and players playtesting them. And a role-playing game is just a system, and you can use that and then you'll be interested in ludology, the study of game design, for the rest of your life. Now you reach Nirvana. You have reached Nirvana. So what was this point? Now that you understand what Dungeons & Dragons is and the whole cuck fest and how it's turning into a lifestyle brand and how black lesbian girls play it, what are you going to do now? Are you supposed to defend it? Are you supposed to be like RPG Pundit? Are you going to be some weird geek? Are you going to write your own module? Are you going to be like Burzum and write My Farag and make like Eurocentric role-playing games? No, you're not going to do that. You're going to go all the way back to Advanced Fighting Fantasy. And you're going to read the 2nd edition of Advanced Fighting Fantasy by Graham Botley, and you're going to get the Warlock of Firetop Mountain module that you started your whole journey 2 years ago on. And you're just going to be so open-ended Anybody can do anything in this game. A player can do what he wants, but there's going to be game limits. You know the reality of the world. You're going to be, you're not a computer. You are a fair human, and that's what it is. Humans are better than computers, and they will ever be. And this is a protest against the transhumanist computer robot that's trying to get our minds, like Alex Jones says. And so this is it. This is what you're going to do. You're going to take anything and make it modular, and you're going to be like Fred Funk. Like John said, you're going to make it, you are the game designer. And games can be anything, and this is what you understand. And this is how you get into the hobby of game design and so-called Dungeons & Dragons and role-playing. You now are above all the plebes. And within 2 years, you are master. And now it's up to you to keep going on that journey and expand your mind and open your consciousness. Ways to get high without drugs, and this is it. This is it. Thank you for watching.